Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I know I haven't recorded anything in a while. Uh, this is going to be my reaction to season 8 of Game of Thrones, the final season. I just finished watching the finale like 40 minutes ago, and I'm just going to go off the cuff, tell you what I think, because I know everyone's going to do this today. Might as well. Um, so I know everyone was saying that this was the worst season of the show, and I think that's a little unfair. I would say it's probably the weakest season. I don't think it was the dumpster fire everyone said it was. Um, the first two episodes I thought were really good. You know, leave it to this show to make 2 hours of people just sitting around talking compelling. Those were good episodes because, you were spending all your time with the characters. You were being reminded of why you cared about them and why they were so interesting. And that, you know, made it more tense for the final battle. As for episode 3, I did, for the most part, I liked episode 3. The battle was well produced. It was a great spectacle. I know everyone was saying, or at least a lot of people were saying, oh, why wouldn't they just stay in Winterfell? It's a castle. I mean, it's designed to withstand sieges, which is true, but here's the thing. This is not an ordinary army they're dealing with. Jon and Dany both know that this is an army and a force that's going to stop at nothing to get what they desire to win. Jon says our enemy doesn't tire, doesn't rest. So I think they know that the only way to beat them is to take the fight to them. So I liked maybe 99% of it. The 1% I didn't like was, and your notes is coming, Arya killing the Night King. The complaint people were making this season was that the creators were just trying too hard to subvert people's expectations. Now, subversion is nothing bad, but you have to set it up. You have to give hints to it. It has to be consistent with the internal logic of the show. Like Ned Stark, Robb Stark, and Catelyn Stark getting killed. In the episodes when those things happened, that was a surprise and that was subversion, but it was consistent with the logic of the show. Arya killing the Night King wasn't, and just because they did nothing to set it up, in the behind the scenes videos they release on YouTube after every episode, David Benioff, who's one of the showrunners, said, well, we've known for about the last 3 seasons that Arya was going to kill the Night King. And when I heard him say that, I was like, okay, well, if you knew that for 3 seasons, why didn't you do anything to set it up? You could have, given Bran a vision. You could have given Arya a vision while she was in Braavos, but you didn't do that, which makes me believe that one of two things. Either you were just lazy and you didn't think that far ahead, or you kind of made it up as you went along. I know everyone thought it was going to be Jon or Dany who killed the Night King because they spent the last few seasons setting that up. They didn't set up Arya killing the Night King. One change I would have made is, maybe, that great shot where Jon is yelling just screaming at the White Dragon. Maybe you could have had Arya, right after Melisandre tells her, reminds her of the prophecy, you will close many eyes forever, brown eyes, green eyes, blue eyes. When Jon is yelling at the White Dragon, all of a sudden the dragon just collapses and you see Arya standing on its back with like a dragon glass spear that she picked up. That would have been a good change. That would have been preferable to the one we got, because Arya still, first of all, Jon would then go off and kill the Night King. That would be consistent with his storyline, Arya would still get her badass moment, and it would still fulfill Melisandre's prophecy, where, right before the dragon collapses, they could have done a close-up of its blue eye. So that was really the only change I would have made. Other than that, episode 3 was pretty good. It was great, actually. I like, all the deaths were fitting. Jorah got a good death. He died defending Dany. Melisandre got a good death. Beric. For the most of it was good. Then on to episode 4. I'm not going to say anything that hasn't already been said. Just like the main, just Dany made just such stupid decisions. Her advisors made stupid decisions. And just what you saw during that big dramatic scene where her dragon Rhaegal gets killed, it just was so ridiculous. Why didn't anyone think to send scouts to Dragonstone? Why does no one realize that that's the first place Cersei is going to go to look for Dany? And, why were, was Euron able to land 3 direct hits on Rhaegal? He was flying, a mile away, but he wouldn't hit Drogon. He's flying directly at them. I understand that, they needed to sort of weaken Dany so that the final battle with Cersei would be more compelling. But when you got to that final battle, it made no difference, because her and Dany and Drogon were able to destroy the rest of the Scorpions and the Iron Fleet relatively easy, so it made no difference. And really, it was just done for shock factor. It was such a dumb decision to make. And then you got to episode 5, The Bells. Now, I actually liked that episode, in spite of what I just said. My thing is, I never really cared about the fight with the Night King, because when that became the major source of conflict in the show, that became the main threat, I should say, the show kind of deteriorated into this just generic fantasy story. What made the show and the series special was that it's a different fantasy story. It's about, it's not about just defeating this great faceless evil. It's about this sort of morally ambiguous quest for power. The Night King plot took that away, because the Night King is scary, but he's a generic fantasy villain. He has no personality. He just wants to destroy the world. And I was glad when they got that plot out of the way. In spite of, the fact that, in spite of what I just, what I said earlier. Look, Dany, there's someone outside. So Dany going mad. People were saying, oh, that just came out of nowhere. But there was precedent for that. I mean, you saw her when she was Queen and Meereen. She burned people without trial. She crucified people. She tortured them. She said, I will take what is mine with fire and blood. I will burn cities to the ground. So that was set up. The problem is, it happened. Her madness just happened so quickly. And that's due to the major problem with these last 2 seasons they were just too short. Like, they could have kept with 10 episodes per season, but they didn't. They did 7 episodes last season, 6 episodes this season. And I know that HBO offered the producers, an extra season, so they could have either, I don't think they should have done that, but they could have done 2 extra long seasons, like maybe 2 seasons of 12 or 13 or 14 episodes, or made the episodes extra long, so they would have at least given themselves more time to develop Dany going mad. And it just, even though, like I just said, there was precedent for it, it just was felt premature and kind of unearned. But yes, other than that, I liked episode 5 because it was it was thematically consistent with the rest of the show. You saw men in Stark armor being these brutal ravagers, and you saw, you kind of felt bad for, you kind of felt bad for the Lannister soldiers you saw. And you saw these innocent people being killed. And that's consistent with what made the show great, where the show was about showing the horrible reality of war. And in war, innocent people get killed for no good reason. So that's why, for the most part, I liked episode 5. So, yeah. Now on to the finale. I didn't hate it. And yeah, the leaks were confirmed. But they weren't, and I did read the leaks, and it didn't turn out to be as awful as I thought it would. I was glad that Jon killed Dany, because, even when I was reading the books before I watched the show, I knew Dany was going to have to die towards the end of the series. And I was, and it kind of had to be Jon, at least in the show. I don't know what's going to happen in the books. But that was satisfying to watch, because it was fitting, with Jon's character arc, with Dany's character arc. The conversation that Jon has with Tyrion before he kills Dany, that was so well done and so well written. I think if they got one thing right this season, it was Jon's relationship with Dany. Again, even though they didn't give themselves enough time to flesh it out, it was set up decently, and it was satisfying, because, just Jon struggles throughout the series with balancing love and duty, and he did love Dany, but he also believed, he still believed in the vows of the Night's Watch, where, it says, "I am the shield that guards the realms of men." His duty was to guard the realm, and he did that, and that was consistent with his character. And now I know a lot of people wanted him to be king, but I don't think that would have been the best ending, to be honest. He said several times he doesn't want to be king. I don't know how it's going to turn out in the books, but him going off and rejoining the Night's Watch, I was pretty much happy with that, because that was consistent with his character, and it was a fitting bookend to the show. Jon, it was satisfying, at least from my point of view. I'm mostly just giving my opinion here, but, Jon would have been miserable as king. He never wanted to be king in the North. He's someone who puts duty over love, and his duty, and you could say, he should view serving the kingdom as king as his duty, and yes, but I think he believed his greater duty was to the Night's Watch and to the free folk, because that's where most of his positive and negative development happened. So that was good. Now, Bran being king, that somewhat made sense to me. That speech Tyrion gives, where he says that, people are bound by stories, not names or noble houses or banners. I should have mentioned, of course, right after Jon kills Dany, Drogon burns the throne and melts it. That was good to see, because, most of the suffering people have gone through in the show is over this petty squabble for the throne, and, the throne needed to be destroyed, and you kind of needed sort of an unorthodox ruler like Bran, someone who was chosen and who's chosen based on ability, not just on lineage. And Tyrion says, Bran is a fitting king because he can't father children. And so this whole thing, that climax, that was them putting an end to this petty squabbles, and this was the beginning of a new era. So that was mostly satisfying, or at least somewhat satisfying. Just they didn't do anything to hint that that's what they were going to do. They could have, again, like with Arya killing the Night King, they should have shown Bran having a vision, something to hint at it, or something ambiguous that was open to interpretation, that was, at least consistent with the logic, but they didn't do that. I think what happened was the showrunners, they were reading fan theories online, and they said, oh shit, people have figured out how it's going to end. We need to do something different. So they just kind of changed course midstream, and it showed. But again, I guess it's kind of consistent. I mean, this, because Westeros was defined by these just violent and vapid and petty squabbles for power, and there needed to be an end to that. And I like the idea of these, whether it's Bran being king or Arya killing the Night King. I like the idea of them, but I don't hate the conclusions they reached. I hate how they got there. I hate how there was nothing. It wasn't in the architecture. But I think, again, I didn't hate the show. I know I'm just being repetitive and rambling here, but I think considering the way the show's been going the last couple seasons, I think this is probably the best we could do. I was really happy to see Sansa be queen in the North and for the North to regain its independence, because, I've been Team Sansa for a while. So that was satisfying, at least for me. Sansa probably had the best, most satisfying character arc of anyone on the show. Her character arc was consistent. She wound up being this kind of spoiled girl who just wanted to be queen, and hey, she's a queen, but she's not the queen. And, we've seen her grow so much, and we've seen her become such a strong, intelligent character. And she's where she belongs, and she, her character arc was so satisfying, and it was so satisfying to see her be crowned queen in the North because she earned it, and because she fought, and she struggled, and she worked for it. And, Arya's ending was satisfying too. I mean, she's always been different than everyone else. She never, she's not someone who wants to be tied down, and it was good to see her off exploring and see her fulfill her destiny. That is her destiny. I thought that small council scene right before the end was good, because you see them squabbling with each other. Why would they make Bronn Master of Coin, though? I guess because Tyrion feels loyal to him, but I mean, I don't know, maybe. Bronn's smart, I guess you could figure it out. I don't know if he can read. Master of Coin kind of needs to read, but whatever. It was good to see Brienne being named. I guess it's implied that she's Lord Commander of the Kingsguard. Of course, it's not implied. Of course she is. That was a fitting end to her character arc. Seeing Grey Worm sail off to Noth because he made a promise to Missandei to defend its people, that was satisfying. That was a satisfying end to his character arc. Yeah, I mean, I have mixed feelings. I mean, I guess I understand why, more or less, why they felt the need to end things the way they did, but they didn't do a good enough job getting there. I think they just got really lazy and bored with the show, but hey, there's still 2 more books, and maybe now that the show's done with, George R. R. Martin will have some pressure put off him, and he's not being bombarded with Game of Thrones this and Game of Thrones that every 10 seconds, so maybe he'll feel motivated to finish. And yeah, that's all I have to say. Good talking to you guys again, and goodbye.